a page, how often do you think you're on Facebook? We focus this on Facebook because it's the most prominent platform. How often do you post links and so forth? And we did this in schools as well and different demographics. And then we had like a specific scale, which is based on hours, which the API gives us back. So you can go into the Facebook API with your consent, and we can actually check how many times did you like something in the last week. We couldn't pull like text or dialogues out of it. We could just pull this engagement, because that's exactly the same that the advertisers use. And then we basically fed that all through, and we got some results. And I just distill these results. I'm going to skip that as well. Okay, I'll have to. I'm actually missing.
Just quickly, so can I ask you?
Yeah, missing.
For every one of the questions, I suspect, was the actual use higher than the perceived use?
No, not for no. So basically, here if you look at these, so if you take the first one, how often do you post on Facebook? The actual result was higher than perceived, obviously. In this case, question 6, how often do you get tagged in friends' posts? Now that's like everybody's allergic about tagging. It's a big, I've been tagged. But there, people actually perceived a lot more than they were actually tagged, which confirms the obvious. But I'm missing the, for some reason.
What's question 11?
Oh, those were like general stuff. They didn't work actually properly. They were something to do with like how often do you, like what interest areas do you think you follow on? Or like, is it like politics? So we try to use some AI algorithms to classify what you're like interested in. Is it like more education? Is it more politics and so forth? That didn't really work. But basically, what we got as a result, and again, I can use the. Well, here's the spread data, but this is published now. So this data is like I have to go to a social media conference in July. So all this stuff is published. But basically, just from the top of my head, what we got out of it is, what we get out of it is that, which is, I think it's very interesting actually, that we're completely aware, like high awareness related to what engagement is shown on information that we put out. So if we put a photo about ourselves up, if we post something, so we're very egocentric in this social networking, social media world, extremely egocentric. Like if we post something out, almost by the link, by the exact number of likes, you remember over a long time how often was it liked by others, and who liked it even. Like we're very much focused on how do we represent ourselves outwards. But at the same time, we completely forget the engagement that we give, like the likes, the comments and so forth, on other people's content. But that is part of our opinion. It's actually an essential part. It's almost like the unconscious. It's like you take the conscious is like that we remember what we put out and what people engage on, but the other side we completely forget, which is what engagement we put on other people's content, because that informs the algorithms about our bias and about our interests. Because we just click it on the go and we just do it there and we do it here, but we totally forget about that. So we're high aware of content we provide, low aware of engagement we give on other people's content. What that means, I find it interesting, but I can't tell you like what that does in terms of changing these algorithms. But it just points to like the first aspect that we where our awareness basically is. Right? That's part of that kind of aspect. So we did this a lot in schools. We did this a lot in like events that Trinity was hosting, and mostly always with like connected with some presentation or some kind of debate. And what the feeling that always came out of this is that people absolutely don't trust what's going on. Most of the participants don't trust what's going on, but still very hard to express, but still kind of rely or use these technologies a lot. So it's kind of this paradox in the room. One question we asked, and this is from the top of my head in a different survey, was do you mind that social media companies give away your information to you mind for advertising? And like 86% said, yes, I mind. And then the next question was, would you pay the social media company for not doing that? And how much would you pay? And then the same amount, like over 75% said, no, I wouldn't pay. So there's so many paradoxes there. And you can calculate the value of how much you would maybe pay. It's about $50. So if you pay $50 a year, it could potentially work on these platforms. Nobody is ready to pay that. So again, in the debate, I sometimes miss, you get, oh yeah, but I hate it when they give away my data, and I hate that, and I hate that. But at the same time, that same person would say, yeah, we don't want to pay for it. We've solved this somehow. So yeah, I have more slides and stuff, but I won't go too far into this. Just to motivate it, if you're interested in this stuff, I'm doing a lot of research now in decentralized social networks, which use IoT and augmented reality, and basically create, like if you're in a learning group, if you're with students, it creates small ad hoc networks, like interest groups, and uses most of the technologies that we know from social media. So you can solve a lot of these problems if you re-engineer the entire approach. I think it's very hard to solve the existing platforms because they've been designed the way they are. But if you redesign the entire approach, if you think of social networks more as intimate, decentralized, and shared experiences, I think then there could be a solution coming out of it. So a lot of the research is now pointing into actually reinventing social networks. So that's just that to motivate it. I won't talk about that too much now if you want to look into that. So where's your head? Yeah.
Anyone, any questions there? Thanks very much.
Yeah, well, just, yeah, or debate, or even comments. It doesn't have to be a question.
How feasible do you think it is to reinvent social networks, given that so many people have made so much money out of them in their current incarnation, if you like? So how feasible do you think it is? There's a lot to be lost by various people if things are to be reinvented.
Yeah, I think it is very possible, but reinvented actually also means completely different than what is now. Not replacing. It's not replacing. It's the big social networks will always have a role, I think, at least in the foreseeable future. And it's important that they're there and they will remain where they are. But I don't think they can solve a lot of the problems that we have. And my approach, or it's like everybody, a lot of researchers have their own view on it, is to become a lot more based on the immediate experience you have in your proximity. So instead of having one big Facebook in your app, which connects all these people in one static graph, you actually have 50 or 60 small Facebooks, like small social networks, all contextualized or based on interest groups that you have. So you basically, as a human, when you walk through space, you constantly make social connections, but you lose them because you don't have any contact with that person and so forth. So you can use technology to create these circles. Google had this idea of circles once. So you can create these circles where this massive, uncontrollable, big beast becomes manageable if it's small and sliced based on the many views that are out there and the many different experiences you have. So that's this approach. That's just one solution. There's all kinds of different solutions. And if you mix in IoT, smart environments, you can actually get very intelligent small graphs, because then these objects, the chatbots, your Siri, your phone, they all become social entities in your graph because you start to engage with them. And then you can use augmented reality for people that are not in the room. You can beam them into it. So it's just spinning different ideas. This stuff is very, very much motivated in the European Union at the moment because we don't have any social networks. It's very much all in California. There's a lot of power there.
The previous speaker was concerned about privacy on the internet, and you seem to be a little bit more relaxed about it. How concerned should we be, in your view, about issues of privacy? This is the last point there.
Yeah, I think this Cambridge analysis is one of many breaches we're going to experience. Maybe even one of the smallest ones. Like I think Facebook is going to be hit by bigger ones and more in the near future. Like it's, for me at least, it's extremely obvious that that's the case. But I think the focus is in the wrong area. Like, why are we so worried or focused about the information that I have on the social network? Like, from an educational point of view, I shouldn't be putting information on social networks that I wouldn't be shouting out in the pub, because it is a pub. Like, why do I think this is private? It's again us as a human. Like, we should be more worried about, I personally think, more worried about the amount of CCTV cameras, or why do I have a device in my living room that can be switched on and off by a US company, and they can just listen into my conversations. That's stuff I would be more worried about. Like, if you have these speech-enabled devices, even just your mobile phone can be externally switched on anytime, all sensors. That's a bit more concerning, because I don't know, that's really private stuff. But somehow everybody's focusing on this social media. That's not where I think privacy is an issue. It's a lot more in these unknown players. So I would be more. I would try to stay a little bit away from the public debate that's always focused on the social media companies and so forth. I would actually be more worried about, if I'm having a private conversation with someone, I maybe switch the phone off or something like that. That's just my personal opinion. It's not general.
I would agree with you. I used to work with newspapers, and I would get a phone call from certain reporters and so on. We always assume somebody else would be listening as well.
Yeah.
So, it's just.
And I'm deeply worried about journalism. Journalism is changing so quick and so much and being disrupted and actually destroyed, that I'm kind of wondering, and looking again at what's going on in the US, you kind of go, whoa. And a lot of the stuff like whistleblowers and all these very important parts of democracy are being taken apart because we suddenly have this amazing technology, but also very dangerous technology to disrupt all this.
Yeah, but you put your finger on there a while ago when you said, they're tracking me and you pay for it to get to these sites.
Yeah.
And I said, we're concerned about 86%, and then you ask the next question, well, will you pay for it?
Yeah.
75%.
But just to your question, because it's a really important question, I would not follow the public debate so that is so much focused on Facebook. So much focused. I'm not saying that's harmless, it's totally, and all the bullying challenges and all these really bad things that can happen there. That's bad. But in terms of privacy, I would be more focused on things that are happening around other areas, such as journalism or how democracy can be disrupted.
Sorry, you mentioned a lot about trust.
Yeah.
And do you think it's dishonest having 3 LinkedIn profiles or 4 LinkedIn profiles? I'm only asking that as, like, you're showing different personas of yourself on the online service, but does the trust not fall apart then? Like, do you not want somebody to...
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that's a really good question, and again, because this is such a big topic, so many things we can talk about. But there's a notion that was brought forward in the '60s by I think it's a sociologist. Yes, this it's kind of this idea of the theatrical self. So that when we're in the world, and a lot of actors talk about that a lot, that there actually is no real self, that we only exist. Sorry?
Goffman, is it?
Yes, Goffman, yes.
Everyday life.
Yes, exactly. That 1964 or something.
Yeah, it's great.
Great book, but it's basically this theatrical self is this idea that when we walk, and this is pre-web, pre-social media, pre-LinkedIn profiles, when we walk through the world, we're actually multiple selves. Like when we come into the pub, and we're playing golf, or we're at home with the family or with the kids. It's different us, and we actually create ourselves in these different contexts. So we're playing, we're actors, and it's very hard for us to understand who we are as such. Only like maybe guys that meditate all day figure that out, because they dissolve the self and then they're just whatever they are, whatever is left. But that's a real spiritual question almost. But the LinkedIn question, I think, related to trust is if you have 4 profiles that represent the same job and you're lying, then you're screwed, I think.
Yeah,
but if you have different if you have different personas, like the LinkedIn profile for you as a musician, which you do in the evening, the LinkedIn profile for you as a professional marketing guru, which you do during the day, and maybe the LinkedIn profile as a public speaker, which you do at the weekends, then you have 3 profiles, and that's fine, because it's cleaner for people to consume. But you can't do that at the moment. You have to squash it all into one LinkedIn profile. So I would, that's why this idea that I'm developing or researching on with these social networks, with these distributed social networks, is that it gives you different contexts. So you can be who you are in these different contexts. That you can't do that with social media at the moment. At the moment, it's one big Facebook. It's like one big LinkedIn profile. It's one Twitter stream.
But just the other side of it, right? Going back to this conversation that you are one person.
Yeah.
You have these different personas. As your synapses are firing in your brain, which is the physical side of it, you have neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
The neurotransmitters are making oxytocin and stuff like, and dopamine when you do an exercise and stuff like that. And oxytocin is very close to a sense of belonging and feeling important, which is extremely addictive.
Yeah.
That is actually what's going on there, is that you're feeling this addictive side. But I bring, through my education, things from my life that help me to be empathy to the students.
Yeah.
I have been that student in the past. When you've different profiles in that way, what you've done is you've totally separate. I'd love to be able to isolate parts of my history. If I was Obama, I'd love to lock up some of the stuff and have it sealed and never to be seen again. But that's what it's the scars that make me who I am, you know. But I'm just saying, I don't think the electronic system has taken that on board.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a really good point, and I don't think, which links to this whole debate about AI and machine learning replacing our jobs and all this kind of stuff that goes on at the moment. I don't think there is a way that, like, if you think of machine, like if you have all of you, which you just described, like your whole history, your CV, everything in this platform, and then you engage with content, and you get this one holistic view of you as a person. It's very hard for the machine to understand who are you right now? Are you at home? Do you want to consume news content? Do you want to like?
But is that not a good thing?
Well, you know, it's good and bad, because bad is that it's now a mess.
Yeah.
Because the machine doesn't know how to do that. It bombards you with content you don't want, or content that's.
But it's giving you the addictive part every time. It says, I'll dish out the addictive part.
Yeah.
Like, dose me up.
Yeah, that's actually very true.
It's easy to do that. I can go to any child, legally, and offer out sweets, and they will take it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they'll ask for more, and more, and more.
Yeah.
And they'll become there'll be a baseline where I have to feed them, or what I do is I switch to something different. And I get them.
That's why I believe there's a need for reinventing a lot of these networks or this approach. But there's a lot of debate with a lot of intellectual thinkers and also founders of a lot of these social platforms and co-founders of Facebook even regretting that part of the addictiveness. There's like a real there's a real sense now that it's actually not good or dangerous in a sense.
It's just when you see them on the internet. I've spent 4 hours, you hear, 4 hours looking at something on the internet. I'd love them to be doing my material. Do you know what I mean? Or be totally addicted to it that they can't break it. You know, it's hard to do that. You know, but.
Can I just make an observation? I'm concerned that, you know, for example, I would have kids who are 22, 24, and I know them and their counterparts. A lot of them, and a lot of other students I know, fake information. They put up fake ID, fake names, and, you know, because again, these personas are generating, I'm not saying my kids necessarily do it, but they, shall we say, create an identity which possibly they may want to be more of something that they might not necessarily be in everyday life. But that leads to a whole ethical issue, and the ethical issue is the fact that this has become normal, so therefore creating something which is false becomes normal. So therefore when they do an assignment or whatever for us to actually create information or to take an approach which will involve falsification, and I don't mean that, this scale of falsification becomes something that's quite normal and it's quite ethical. An example that was given to us recently was somebody who actually had downloaded and used a particular website to undertake to do an assessment, but they paid for it as such. And there was a case taken because he said himself the fact that, listen, I paid for that, that is my material because I paid for it. So it was a viewpoint, the fact that they had ownership over it now. And that was quite legitimate. Now that type of thing wouldn't have happened. To me, there's a lot of ethical issues there, and
Yeah.
we're changing and shifting.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the way ethics is seen within society.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I totally agree. Like, again, I don't think there is a solution, or it's just this dilemma at the moment that we find ourselves, at least I, myself, needing these technologies and using them actively. Like, it's very hard for me to imagine that we just switch them all off. For a moment, it sounds lovely and quiet and on my phone. Then I can't reach my friends that easy, and I can't share what I did yesterday evening, and I'll have to tell every individual when I can't just post it. I have to think of all these things suddenly. So, but at the same time, it brings in all these new problems. And I'm just hoping that it's kind of a phase at the moment in society where we just see all this mess as like very, very hard in many ways, but out of all of this, something really good comes, something that we actually know how it works. Hopefully, it's, again, a very positive tone.
Well, let's
Yeah.
close on a positive thought that we can make a difference in society, and we can continue this conversation at the reception, which is it outside or in the, just across the way where we had lunch. We have some reception there at the moment, and we can continue the conversation. But before we do, we'd like to okay, so we'll see you across. We'll see you again in the morning at 10 o'clock.
It's actually different. Or the man putting the two pay on himself.
And he even said at the end, I need this, I need
Are you coming over for whatever's on?
But it's free, it's almost predicted the way people now should
I'll try to explain
and a lot more water of that type. And it's in fact, if you took away the dams, if you all got and the whole idea is it's education. And they educate them that there isn't a different kind of how to
breakfast on a point. And
Friday.
Trust the lights in the supermarket.
But if you do speak up about anything, and it's like something you do,
Absolutely. No.
Where we talking about conversation? You got a choice for class.
Mineral water for Tom. If you email me, I'll send you something. I do, yeah, because well, cognitive impairment, so the physiological side, then you start going into the emotions, the feelings, and stuff like that. Then there's outer body, what people perceive as your things, performance and behaviour, and so you have to change the inner part to change the outer side. So there was one thing recently, like if you email me your details, I'll send you one or two what I do. Well, human factors is a big thing I do too. Because we said, sit for 1 second, if this opens up straight away, encrypt it. Well, no, it's just the encryption part. But I'll go through a few slides very quickly and you'll get what I do. I try to teach human factors for teaching control of things that are happening to control engineers, and not always numerical. There's other stuff that's going on.
I'm not actually, I want to head home. Time Mary, 4:10, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah.
difference that you're very sort of it doesn't make sense because engineering is for humans, it's for people.
Oh, absolutely. It's to control what's going on. Yeah, that's the total part of it. But yeah, it's like I show how to make documentation almost foolproof, how you can show somebody the information that you want to get across very clearly, and it saves you. So one of the things I teach at the very start is human factors. So I go through about the brain. Let me try to put this in. I've been rejig this. No, I'm going to fly through it fairly quickly.
I'm going to take two of you in here.
Yeah, and we'll lock the door on the way out.
Have you been told already?
Yeah, there's a code.
There's an exit button on the wall.
Take it out,
It goes out.
So
And we're only across the corridor.
I've been adding stuff just recently, but it was I explained to the students, maybe there's a hamster going around.